Hey, supply chainers, wherever you are in the world, this is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey with you today. Are you ready? Let's talk supply chain. Hello, everyone, and happy Tuesday. I am here with you live from Hamburg, Germany. It's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon for me, and I cannot wait for the discussion that we have for you. Now, we just heard from Fastenal at the beginning with their ad and that amazing music. Now we have to talk about our other sponsor, Emerge. Emerge is proud to partner with Thoughts and Coffee to elevate our combined focus on empowering and growing meaningful relationships in the freight industry. The first and only freight-specific RFP platform, Emerge, is reinventing freight procurement by offering solutions that enhance the spot and contract procurement process, enabling shippers to make the most strategic decisions possible, saving invaluable time and enhancing productivity. Learn more at emergemarket.com/thoughts and coffee. So that's right. I am here with you from Hamburg, Germany, as you can tell from my hotel room. And I'm super excited to be here with you today. Oh, I didn't check my personal social media, so I guess we're not streaming there. So you can only catch us on Let's Talk Supply Chain LinkedIn. So let's talk about what is happening at Let's Talk Supply Chain this week. So this week we've got a brand new episode. So I don't know if you remember this, but a couple of months ago, I went live on Thoughts and Coffee with Emerge, and we had some really great conversations about leadership, about trucking, what's happening in the industry, and the best kept secret for vendor relationships. And so we took that episode and we turned it into a podcast. And that is the episode that you are going to hear from us this week. So go to letstalksupplychain.com or wherever you subscribe to the Let's Talk Supply Chain podcast. It's episode 269, and you're definitely going to want to go and check that out because it was a fun discussion. All right, let's talk about what's happening in our upcoming events. So what is new? We've got all sorts of exciting events coming up for you that I can't wait to talk to you about, but I can't see that. Okay, so unleashing the full connected potential of logistics, that's coming up at the beginning of June. So definitely go and check that out. Next, September 6th through 7th. That's right. I announced this a couple of weeks ago. I am going to be hosting the digital side of the Imagine in-person event from Washington. This event is hosted and put on by Laura Ciceri, and there's so much amazing content that's going to be coming out of this. So I hope you go and check that out and register for that one. Of course, we've got Thoughts and Coffee. Plus, we've got Log Tech Live, and Eric Johnson is going live the first and third Friday of every month. That's twice a month, sponsored by Far Eye. And you're not going to want to miss those discussions because he is the guy in the know about tech in logistics and supply chain. Next, we've got Intelligent Automation Week in Chicago. That's July 27th to 29th. Go and check that out. That's going to be a fabulous one. Everybody's talking about automation right now. Of course, we've got action items with DC Spigola the second Friday of every month. And we've got a brand new webinar with Four Kites. Perfect your back to school strategy with ocean visibility. Register to find out when you can see that one too. And then no bullshipping. So no bullshipping with Hope White was last week, and I was in attendance, and her guest was talking about supplier diversity. Now, if you're a diverse supplier, you definitely want to go and check out this episode. And if you're not and you're working with diverse suppliers, you definitely want to go and check out this episode. So that one's on YouTube, our Let's Talk Supply Chain YouTube page. So go check that out. We've got First Things First coming up in a couple of weeks with Mercado as well. And then coming in hot was last week too. So if you're a student or you know a student that is looking to get into supply chain, that particular episode was a really, really good one because she was talking about careers and what that looks like and what you need to know and what you need to do with her guest on that show. So definitely go and check that out as well. Otherwise, yeah, I'm here for the Hapag Lloyd Global Management meeting. We go into rehearsals tomorrow and kick off on Thursday. And I will be there all day Thursday, half day Friday, and then I'm off to Amsterdam for the weekend. So, super excited for that. Now it's time to bring up our guest for today. Hello, Julian. How are you?
Hey Sarah, I'm doing well. It's great to see you.
It's great to see you as well. And we've got so many people from so many different places. I see Davin. We've got Eric from Ecuador. Prakash is here. It says perfect timing. We've also got Michelle. Thank you so much. And Reza. Tempest is here as well. Thank you so much for everybody for joining us this morning. Now, Julian,
Very
can
cool.
you please give everyone an introduction? I'm pretty sure they know who you are. I mean, lots of people know who you are, but can you tell everybody that doesn't know who you are and what you do?
Sure. So my name is Julian Alvarez. I am the CEO of Logixboard. We are a customer experience platform for freight forwarding companies and customs brokers. Essentially, help freight forwarders and customs brokers digitize their customer-facing applications and help them level up to be able to compete with some of the industry giants, the Flexports of the world, and we do that by directly integrating to the TMS systems and making it really easy and really simple for them to digitize those customer facing processes. Companies based in Seattle, about 100 people spread out across the globe, growing really rapidly, venture backed.
Nice.
And started it with my brother about 6 years ago from our
Woo.
living room bedroom in Miami. So it's been quite a ride.
It has been quite a ride. I mean, you were on the Let's Talk Supply Chain podcast a little while ago. So if anybody wants to hear more about their story, go and check that out. You just got to type them into the search bar and it will come up for you so you can learn more about it. But you guys have been doing phenomenally, helping freight forwarders to digitize. And I've loved to watch your journey. And recently you were in Australia. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
We were. So, because the first system that we integrated to, it's a company called Wiseta Global. The product is called CargoWise. That company is actually they offer a transportation management system, and they're Australian based. So that was our first integration, and because of that, Australia has become a pretty important market for us.
Nice.
So some of our first customers ever were actually based in Australia, and we have a big customer base over there. So we have had never met any of our customers in person. This was kind of the opportunity as the pandemic starts to dissipate a little bit for us to really go be able to meet our customers. So we were there for 2.5 weeks. We went to Sydney, to Melbourne, to Brisbane, to the Gold Coast. It was a combination of conferences and then working with some of our partners, including you guys, to be able to to make some noise in the market, drive some awareness, but also see our customers to see how we can continue to support that journey. It was incredibly rewarding. It was really humbling to see how our customers are using our product to win in that market. It was
Nice.
a really neat experience. Kind of
Nice.
going back full circle from starting to work with people through Zoom at the beginning and now meeting them in person. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
really cool, honestly.
Yeah, I can't wait to get back to Australia. I've been to Brisbane and Melbourne, and I'd love to get to Sydney. And I love the fact that you talked about how you met up with Jonathan Kempe, who's
Yeah,
the host of Let's Talk Supply Chain Asia Pac, and you were doing some work with him out there as well. And so we were able to support you as Let's Talk Supply Chain on that journey in Australia. And so I heard all sorts of amazing things from Jonathan, and now some amazing things from you, Julian. And so
very
we were just really happy to be able to work with you and support you on that particular trip. So I'm so glad to hear that it was
it was
successful.
incredible. Thank you so much.
All right. So we've got Audrey joining us too on YouTube. I think she's joining us from anyways, I won't tell you, but Ranjit says hello as well. And Reza says your voice is not so clear. Well, we'll work on that, but don't worry about it.
No
So
worries.
let's talk about the poll of the week. AJ, do you want to post that poll of the week for me? All right. So the question that we asked you all was something about your passion. I'm just trying to pull it up on my side. How old were you when you identified your professional passion? So 29% of you said post-grad in my 20s. Another 29% of you said took until my 30s. 27% of you said still searching for it. And 15% of you said during university. Julian, how do you resonate with this? I mean, what does that look like for you? Because I know for me, I really identified my passion early on, but I've always looked at it as a journey. And I found my passion in a variety of different ways through that journey. So the passion has always been supply chain, but what I did in supply chain has always been a journey for me. What about you?
I was really young, honestly. Reza, I know you put a comment that you couldn't hear me well. So if this is better, please let me know.
It
But
is better.
um,
It's good.
I was really young. I was really fortunate. Both of my parents are entrepreneurs. Um, they both started companies that were quite successful. So and Juan is my co-founder and brother, grew up at the dinner table talking business with our folks and trying to understand how they were thinking about developing their businesses, what was next. So I think we
Mhm.
knew really early on. I actually was in an interview not too long ago for a magazine in Seattle, and they asked me the same question. And I said, well, listen, like it was either that or I was going to be an NBA All-Star, a basketball player. I did not grow enough. I'm about 5'9", so definitely not tall enough to be a basketball player. So I knew pretty early on. I was probably 10 or 11, frankly. And then coming out of college, the first thing that I did, instead of taking a really big job at a corporate company, I decided to start a business with my family and 3 other people. And I really became in love with the world of entrepreneurship, kind of the ups and downs, the building phase. So I knew very early, and the first job, or kind of building a company straight out of college, ratified that. So never looked back. It's been,
Amazing.
it's been part of. I've basically been in the entrepreneurship world my entire life, or at least professional career.
And you love it, right?
I love it. I
Good.
love it. Honestly, it's you've been through this era. It's a really emotional process when you're
Yes.
building companies. It's a lot of ups, it's a lot of downs, and you're trying to make sure that at least the trend is upwards. But it's a very emotional process. I think in some ways you end up tying part of your identity to it, but thankfully the
Yep.
business is going incredibly well. But even the rough parts, the difficult situations that you have to clear through, I love that part as well. So just everything about it, it's very enjoyable to me. And building out teams, particularly coming out of last year when we raised about $45 million,
Mhm.
being able to put together to really execute on the vision that we have and go into that growth stage, that part has been incredibly fun as well.
Absolutely. And I know we both grew up with entrepreneurial parents. And so we have a similar story, except for I went into the family business and did some high side hustles. So I've too been also in entrepreneurship for a very long time. If you go through the comments on this particular post, Heather says that your passion changes over time. We've got some other people that said they started early on in family businesses as well. And so some of the options that we gave to people on that poll didn't even cover it because one person said they were 16. So thank you so much for everybody who responded to that poll. We love hearing from the community and getting everybody's thoughts. Now we're going to go over to my Sunday post, which is about leadership. And I wanted to focus on a quote by this guy. I mean, everybody knows who he is. And it says, the only way to do great work is to love what you do. And we just sort of talked about that in the poll and how you sort of found your passion. And I think, this is a hard one for a lot of people because in the comments of this particular post, a lot of people were, and even Larry was saying, well, you can do something for your daily job. And then you can do other things that ignite that passion and are what you love to do. And I was kind of like, well, if you're really going to do something 8 hours a day, you really, really need to love what you do because you're taking that time away from other things in your life. Julian, what do you think about this one?
I'm conflicted, honestly. Um, so you're right. We spend about a third of our lives, at least working lives, at work with the people that we're trying to build a business with, or whatever our professional career is. I think part of it is you definitely have to love what you do. But to us, and something that we preach deeply at Logixboard, is to do great work, you have to take care of yourself first, in your
Okay.
personal life, in your home life, in your family life. So um, for us, everything really stems from that priority. Is like, before we are people at work, we are humans first. and taking care of ourselves and making sure that we're okay in those different outlets is really critical. I think that's the most important part, to show up, to do really great work. And then afterwards comes really enjoying and loving what you do. So I'm a little bit conflicted in terms of priorities, but I definitely agree. I think you need to love the work you do, and the other part, you need to love the people that you do it with. I think that part is really critical. We talk about this also, like building companies is really hard. And even at various points in a company's journey, like there's uncertainty around whether the company will succeed, whether it won't. And you do all these things to be able to de-risk it. But someone from our team said it best when we first started the business. If we do really well, I want to make sure that I enjoy the people that I'm working with. And if we don't, I want to make sure that I enjoy the people that I'm working with as well. So I think making sure that you focus really critically on having great people on the team, I think that goes a long way as well.
I love that perspective, because you're talking about the people that you surround yourself with for those 8 hours or however many hours a day, because I know for you and I, it doesn't stop at 8. But then also being passionate and loving at least some parts of what you do. So thank you so much for sharing that. All right, we need to get on to our first article of the day. AJ, let's put this one up now. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but let me tell you, this is definitely some thinking outside of the box. So two brothers have now taken a sailboat from France to Brooklyn. I think they were docking last week or something like that. Now, this sailboat holds 18,000 bottles of wine. It's arriving with 8,000 bottles of wine and 450 chocolate bars. And what they're saying is, when you buy this wine and you buy the chocolate bars from the vendors that they're bringing the cargo in for, you're tasting adventure and you're tasting sustainable development. Now, this is a whole new way of thinking about moving products from Europe to North America. Julian, what are your thoughts on this? Because this is not the end of it.
No, it's not. Well, first, I love that they're brothers, right? Because I started the company with my brother, so it definitely resonates. I think the initiative is actually quite neat. I saw their growth numbers, and it seems like their revenue is really growing. I think part of the challenge is their supply chain is really complex, and there's a reason why carriers exist, and they're moving all kinds of goods. I think with goods like chocolate bars, like wine, it makes sense. I worry a little bit if there's weather changes and all of a sudden all these bottles are flying out the boat, what happens there?
Right.
For other stuff, though, I think it gets a little bit more difficult. Like, how do you move electronics? How do you move perishables? So I think the initiative is quite neat. I'm excited to see what comes out of it. Honestly, sustainability seems to be on top of everybody's mind right now. So love the initiative. I wonder how it scales. Basically.
Yeah, so they're talking about how they're just going to focus on high value products for now. I mean, obviously, because my question is, how much is the shipping charges? Because I think that that's really the question of the day, is how much is it going to cost to move goods this particular way? So the boat cost $1.5 million. Right? It's aluminum for speed and durability. It's got wind turbines, solar panels, and generators, which makes it more sustainable, is what they're saying. And this year they're going to 3 cargo sailboats, which carries 350 tons of cargo. And they're going to do 3 transatlantic loops a year, which means that they're reducing transportation carbon footprint. But the other question that I have is the same as yours. You've got large vessels, that during rough seas are losing containers overboard. What does that mean for a sailboat that's traveling from Europe to North America? And, is that going to lose product? So first of all, I want to know how much it actually costs and whether it's viable, because everybody's like, balking at the cost of shipping as it is right now. And I can only imagine on a sailboat what that's going to cost.
I completely agree. I do think it's the right time, though, right? Like the trend in the industry has been pretty fascinating. It's always been price. That is what people ultimately care about the most. And in some ways, I think it's still, the order kind of has flipped a little bit. It's gone from price to capacity. Today, capacity is key. If you don't have capacity, you're in a really difficult position. So it's capacity.
So they've got it.
Then price, then technology. So these folks have capacity, right? I also see a big shift from people wanting to move more towards like carbon neutral
Mhm.
solutions. So even if the price is more expensive, but there's capacity there, it could be a really interesting play actually. So like you, I'm really curious to see what comes out of it.
Well, and Davin makes a really good point, right? You're not going to be able to sail to Brooklyn in January.
Yep.
And so they might have to change their route to, I don't know, what, Florida? Is that going to take them further? I don't even know, but they're going to have to go somewhere where
Yeah.
there's not ice and they're going to be able to dock that sailboat.
Listen, I'm in Florida. I'm in Miami. They can come year round. I think they'll be okay coming here.
I just don't know what that route looks like. But,
Yeah.
anyways, that's a whole different discussion. Okay. So, the second article for today is about Kuhn and Nagel. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but Kuhn and Nagel has taken a really big stance on sustainability and carbon neutral. So, they are offering carbon neutral pickup and delivery from LAX to Torrance in California. And they're calling it the Sustainable Airport Corridor. Now, they're also talking about using sustainable aviation fuel solutions, which is something that they offer their customers right now, which is helping them reach their sustainability goals. And they're the first carbon neutral lane from Europe to North America. I don't know what's going on with Europe to North America, but there is a ton going on in those lanes, people. So if you're moving goods from Europe to North America, there's a lot of options that you guys need to look at. But it's the first carbon neutral lane in the industry with the sustainable fuel. So really interesting. You and I were talking about this before we went live that neither of us had ever heard of this before, but it's out there and it's coming. And I think for a lot of companies, if you're not thinking this way, look out. What do you think? What are your customers talking about when it comes to sustainability?
It's actually becoming a more and more important topic. And what
Yeah.
I've realized, so, our customers are freight forwarding companies and customs brokers, right? So they're the service provider to millions of shippers all over the world. I think when things really start to change in an industry is when there's pressure from the end buyer, in this case, the
Yep.
shipper. It
Hmm.
seems to be becoming a really important topic, though. I actually had a conversation with one of our customers last week where they were going into a really massive tender where with a global shipper. And part of the conversation was, can you give us visibility around carbon emissions?
Yep.
Um, can you help us understand what percentage of an ocean carrier's carbon emissions we're contributing to? And we're starting to see that more and more, particularly from global shippers, which ultimately drive a lot of the demand in the market, trying to understand what are their emissions. And that will ultimately, in my opinion, kind of shape the market and force it to at least provide visibility around it. How
Hmm.
you come up with solutions, we'll leave it up to the folks of Eco Warriors and of CUNA of like what are the solutions that can help curb this. But in my opinion, it all stems from visibility and having a better understanding and better education around what's actually happening. But definitely, I'd say the last 12, 18 months, that curve has accelerated pretty deeply. And it seems to be something top of mind for folks. And part of what's happening also, when you're a freight forwarding company and you're being asked for this visibility in a tender and you don't have it, if it means that not having it is going to cause you to lose business or
Hmm.
potentially not be competitive in the market, then it becomes top priority for you as well. So I do see a lot of shifts there, which I think is incredibly beneficial,
Yeah.
for the industry and for the world as a whole, obviously.
Well, but remember though, as long as they tell you that you've lost the business because you didn't offer that sustainability option, right? Because a lot of times they won't even tell you you've
I
lost
know.
the business. And if you don't ask the right questions, you don't actually know that that's a real sticking point for some people and why they took you off the list right at the beginning of the tender.
I agree. I agree completely. And we see this all the time, right? With our customers, they're going out to market and they're going into tenders of folks saying like, what visibility are you going to offer me? What technology are you
Yeah.
offering me? Any tools to be able to manage my supply chain? And several people going out to those tenders or bids and not being able to be competitive. And when they show up with Logixboard, they can cross yes on all of those check boxes, right? But to your point, if you don't understand why you're not being able to get into into the ball game, then you're not being able to adapt. So we think technology is a huge component there, but I also
Yeah.
see the carbon emissions coming up quite a bit as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that answer. And yeah, sustainability. I mean, Like we're seeing with Kuehne Nagel, yes, they're a big player. They're still a traditional forwarder and they are innovating and coming up with these ideas and helping their customer because it's not just the shippers driving the change, it's the end user who's buying the product
Yep.
and the distributor and the retailer that is putting pressure on the freight forwarder to then find those solutions that can really help them reach their goals. So remember that, guys. Like, this is super, super important. All right. So our last article here is from Logixboard, and I chose this one because you talk about how logistics is still about people. You're a digital company, you're trying to, or you're helping companies to digitize, and yet you're still telling them that they need to focus on their people. So let's talk about this. I mean, as people go about their lives and how things are shaping from a digital standpoint, right? Like Uber, you can track and see where your Uber driver is. I did that the other day and I had to cancel an order because he just kept going around in circles and not even getting to me. And so I was able to cancel my order. And so these are the types of things that us as consumers really want from our freight forwarders. And because we want to take that, we want to bring that into supply chain. So what are you seeing? Talk to us a little bit about this customer experience, but the digitization and what people are expecting.
Yep. It's a great question. It actually, as soon as you asked me, it took me back. Last week, we had one of our customers actually come in and give our entire team a chat, basically as to how they're using Logixboard, what value we're providing, et cetera. And they were mentioning in today's market, when they're going out to win business or bid for business, there's basically several things that are really important. The first one is, do you have capacity and can you be competitive in terms of pricing? That was number one. The second one was, do you have the right level of technology to be able to provide visibility and a great experience to your customer? And that's really the part that we help freight forwarding companies and customs brokers solve. But his perspective was really fascinating, which was like, hey, I know I can nail number one. I know I can nail number two. But if we ever get to number three, it's people. It's my people. It's like, I know I can go head to head with anybody and win if we're just talking about my people. So I very much think that the industry will continue to be like that. Like technology, at least the technology that we're developing, we're not really thinking about it as how can we replace people. It's more how can you help freight forwarding companies augment the level of service that they're providing, augment their customer experience, and then continue to lead with their people. Can they have their people focus on high value tasks as opposed to low value tasks? So continuing to invest on your people to be able to provide ultimately the best service possible and the best solutions possible. I think that part is really critical. Technology should help enhance that,
Yeah.
definitely not replace it. Another way to think about it is, freight forwarding companies they're typically companies that don't have a lot of assets, right? Unless you're some of the really huge industry giants, you don't have a ton of assets. You have your relationships with other third parties in other countries to help you with those lanes. You have relationships with the carriers. You have technology and you have your people. And I think continuing to invest into people and technology is really, really
Huge.
critical
Huge.
in today's world, at least.
Can you walk us through this graph? So I thought this graphic was, or the graph was super relevant to what we're talking about right now. It's within the article, so if you guys go and check out the article that we've put in the comments, but walk us through this graphic. We've only got about a minute left, so you have to do it pretty quickly.
Cool. Okay, so graphic. I think basically this graphic is about a year old. So when we looked at it, the most important part for people was price, essentially. I think, as I mentioned, I think price has been replaced a little bit for capacity.
Yeah.
And, in today's market, capacity is really critical. But the second part was actually customer service and individualized attention. I think this is the reason why the small and medium-sized forwarders and custom brokers in the market will continue to win and not lose kind of market share to some of the really big, the Kuehne of the world. The third one was technology. So our proposition here and our belief is Logixboard can really help the small and medium segment of the market deliver on the second two, which is better customer service and better technology to help them win in a market that's becoming more and more competitive.
Absolutely. Well, I love it. And you guys are continuing to bring great information and content into the community. And as always, it's such a pleasure to have you
Of
here,
course.
Julian.
Thank you, Sarah. It's been great. I hope you enjoy Germany and everything that you have to do there. It sounds exciting.
Thank you. Well, next week, Audrey is going to be here to host the next Thoughts and Coffee because I am actually going to be on vacation. So I hope you come back and enjoy and join her with her amazing guest, whoever that's going to be next week, because she hasn't even told me yet. And then the week after that, Audrey's going to be back with me as a guest as well. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining us today. Ciao.
Thank you.